You can access the entire episode now on our website, forbiddenknowledge.news, Rokfin, Rumble, and all podcast platforms. How did your understanding of what was happening begin to evolve and unfold, and how did you become aware of the motives of these beings?
Sure. I think that came much later in life. But as I was growing older and as more information was coming out, I realized, I had to much later in life when I realized kind of what they were. And I still didn't know for sure because, every time I would see, even until just recently, every time I would see a picture, a book with a picture on it, or a movie or a television show or something like that, I could not watch or read anything about this because it was too scary and too triggering for me. This thing has been in my life all of my life. And what happened is I had a near-death experience. I call it in the book a near-life experience because it was closer to life than death. And I really feel like my life kind of started over at that point where I was in a hospital and I was given a paralytic instead of a sedative. No one was around me. I was just in an operating room waiting for the surgery to start. And I died on the operating table. And it was an amazing experience. I mean, it was the most peace and love I've ever felt in my life. It was just a beautiful sense of love and peace. And, what struck me the most is I was still me. I still had my personality. I still felt like myself without, the body, but just who you are to yourself was still with me. And after that, though, I went through some PTSD therapy because the fact that I was paralyzed and just lay there and dying and died on the table was like drowning without water. And I just had terrible PTSD from it. So that therapy actually helped me deal with the other things that had been plaguing me my whole life. These experiences that I had had with these non-human entities.
Now, I just have to ask real quick. You were under a paralytic. Were you also aware of the pain and the sensations that were occurring?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, my goodness.
My body felt like cement and I couldn't breathe. Oh. And I think that just overtook more than anything else because I realized, oh no, I can't breathe. I can't signal to anyone. There's no one around me. I wasn't hooked up to anything yet. There were some nurses messing around with things in the room. My doctor was in another room because once I had and I'll get to that. But so all of a sudden I'm just like, God help me. And all of a sudden I heard a voice as clear as day in my head say, it's okay, you can let go now, which sounds kind of corny, but it's exactly what the voice said. And just in an instant, like in a blink of an eye, not even, I was out of my body and there was no pain. There was no fear. There was just nothing. It was just happy and blissful and peaceful and beautiful and lovely. And I could see everything happening in all the rooms around the room I was in. It's like walls didn't stop me from seeing. I could see the doctor getting ready, and I saw the nurse run in and tell him that I wasn't breathing, and he comes running in, yelling, "Bagger, bagger," and, I watched them try to revive me, and eventually they intubated me, and that's when they got me breathing again, and everything went black, so I'm assuming at that point I popped back into my body, and the recovery process was really difficult. I've had many surgeries from what has happened to my body, things they can't just explain why. And they were trying to bring me out of the anesthesia in recovery. Every time they would, I was screaming and in pain so badly. I'm thinking, coming back into this body was not an easy jump. And every time they tried to bring me out of anesthesia, they had to put me back under and sedated because they didn't want me to have a heart attack or a stroke. Well, I'd already had a stroke at that point. Which is why this side of my face doesn't move very much, just in case anyone's wondering. But about 3.5 hours into that, I remember them bringing me out and screaming in pain, and I'm just like, God help me again. And all of a sudden 2 orderlies show up at the foot of my bed. And they helped me through it. They calmed me down. I felt love and peace from them. I was like, you remind me of my kids. Oh, you remind me of my sons. You're just so sweet, so beautiful. Thank you. I was just thanking them profusely. We get up to the room, and I want to introduce my husband and my daughter-in-law to them. And they're not there, and nobody knows who I'm talking about. So
Wow.
I had an angelic experience with these guys. You know, they didn't have any. And I realized, thinking about it, yeah, they were just two young men wearing scrubs. They looked like orderlies, but they didn't have any badges. They didn't have anything, you know, like that. No stethoscopes around their neck, nothing like that.
Wow.
And they were just gone, and nobody, you know, and they were with me all the way up to the room. And so I'm like saying to the nurse, well, they were right here in the elevator with us. They came down the hall with us. Where did they go? Nobody knew who I was talking about. They're like, honey, there was no one else with you. You must be delirious, you know.
Yeah.
So that was a really amazing. So, you know, there are amazing experiences that happen too. There are really good, beautiful, angelic experiences out there. And I put those things in the book because I don't want it to be just this awful, scary account of what's happened in my life, because they're good things too.
And
But
that's the thing.
really-
I've only experienced the positive, beautiful, angelic side of this, and
That's
that's
good.
all I can frame my reference from experiences from. So that's why I love to hear the other side, because it's so important, because there is this other side that so many people, probably just as many people, experience. So
Right.
apologies for cutting you off. Where were we?
No, you're fine. That's good. And yeah, I mean, beautiful experiences and experiences with good, angelic, non-fallen, non-evil beings. You know, that's wonderful. We need to share more of those stories, because I feel like everyone gets really hung up on the scary stuff. I get it. I understand. But after that, when I had that PTSD therapy, it actually helped me deal with this to the point that I'm like, I have to. Now that I'm dealing with it, I talked to my husband about it, talked him through it, and I'm like, I'm not sure what to do with this. And God led me to L.A. Marzulli. I met him at a conference and shared my story, and it became a part of his fourth movie in the UFO series on abductions, on the abduction phenomenon. And I was terrified when that came out, because here I was putting my testimony out there, telling my story. My face, my words were out there, and he's like, thank you for being brave enough. And I'm just like, I'm not sure I'm that brave, you know.
Yeah.
But it was out there, and people started coming up to me and thanking me for sharing that story, because they had similar stories and just didn't feel like there would be anyone they could share that with, any way to deal with it, any way to work through it. And so it led me to write the book, because I wanted to share more about what happened, and more about how to stop it too. If someone's in one of these positions where they're being taken against their will, and it's not a good situation, and they're not benevolent creatures, then I wanted to share how to stop it as well, and share the truth about what's been going on my whole life, because this is just like this ugly little secret that isn't out there and needs to be out there, because it's not just these alien entities. There were humans there too, the whole time. From the time I was little, there would be other children there. There were other humans there.
Now, were these humans seemingly in military garbs?
Not all of them. Some of them were. You could tell some of them were kind of like guards and things like that. But the funny thing is, the military uniforms weren't. I guess they were pretty similar, but there were people that were in like lab coats, or people that were in like street clothes, and then there were people that were in these like weird, really benign kind of beige looking smocks and pants kind of outfits that were just all the same, so like they didn't stand out. They were just, it was a really kind of unisex benign outfit some people had on. And yeah, from the time I was little, these people were there. And I realized later in life that some of these people, I don't think had any idea what they were getting into and didn't really want to be there. But at that point, I think once you're in there, you're in a program that you're threatened not to stop. I know they were threatening people because they utilized me as part of the threat process.